welcome. This is This Normal with your hosts, Emily and Sarah.
Hey guys.
Hello, welcome back. Yay! We're still running strong for our fourth season. Started our fourth season. This has been great. And before we get to our guest this evening, I wanted to shout out to our sponsors, Center for Positive Sexuality, Exquisite Restraint Corsets, Bebob Net Web Development, Creative Sexuality, and Sex Smart Films. And remember, if you go and shop at Sex Smart Films, use the code Positive Sexuality, all one word, and you'll get a discount on your purchases there. So that is fabulous.
Thank you.
And also, I wanted to give a shout out, Christina, our production assistant who helps us behind the scenes. She has some of her work in an art exhibition called the Out and Out Group Art Exhibition. It's in Los Angeles through August 29th. It's an LGBT art show. And a lot of the artwork, if you know Tom of Finland, which is very sort of gay leather kind of stuff, some really interesting artwork. It's that sort of stuff. So if you go to worldoftomoffinland.com/Tom's blog, and in there you'll see information about the Out and Out Group art exhibit.
Okay, wait, say that one more time. Worldoftomoffinland.com. There we go. Okay.
And so some of Christina's photography is in the art exhibit. And so I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. I think it's great that she's doing that. How this works. I also thought that I would look up, just to be sure, because there seems to be some concern about the definitions of rape and what is rape. And so in another one of my handy-dandy textbooks here, it defines rape, and it defines forcible rape, and statutory rape, and sexual assault, which may or may not include rape, and stranger rape, and acquaintance rape, or date rape. No legitimate or illegitimate rape.
Nope.
Nowhere. These are not in these books. Yeah. And I remember I was seeing something that was saying they're trying to say that there was like some really low percentage of pregnancies that come out of rape as opposed to other ways that someone could possibly get pregnant. But if you actually read the articles and read the statistics, these things have very little to do with one another. The only thing that I read today, actually, and I remember reading this in the past, that makes any difference is that sperm tends to be more motile, which means it moves faster and better. The more aroused the man is when he ejaculates.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
You're going, therefore they go.
They go faster.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter why he's more aroused. So if he's more aroused because you are also more aroused, or if he's more aroused because he's forcing you, makes no difference. The sperm don't know.
Doesn't matter.
They actually don't know how they got there. They're just there. They don't make that distinction. So, in case there are questions about this in the audience, just thought we would cover those topics.
I think it's also a good thing to, especially, for women and men, to be familiar with both reproductive systems. If maybe your school didn't have the greatest forum for you to learn. Maybe they used sock puppets. Maybe, they did not use the greatest diagrams created. It is important for everybody to seek out that information. It's completely available online, privacy of your home, books at the library, whatever you want. But to learn about both reproductive systems.
Absolutely.
Because it's good for your health, it's good for your partner's health, it's good for, everything. There's so many reasons why you should know what's happening in your body. And, learn about signs and signals to things that might not be right. know when you should be going to your doctor, all of those things. It's so important for your own health and for your own knowledge, especially when people are talking about, women's bodies and what's happening. You need to be empowered and know what's happening.
Absolutely. I agree entirely. Yeah, definitely. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up is last night I was on Lou Paget's Sex Talk with Lou.
So awesome.
Broadcast, which thank you, Lou, for that, and that was really fun. We had a great time, and we were talking about 50 Shades of Grey and how accurate or not the BDSM sections of that were. So that was a really neat discussion. And if you look up her show, Sex Talk with Lou, I don't know if as of today or maybe tomorrow the link will go up if you want to re-listen to the recorded version of the show. But she is going to be on our show in October, so we're trading interviews with Lou Paget. So I guess we will introduce our guest. We have this wonderful, wonderful lady, Missy Parker, who I have known for a couple of years now. Really, really amazing woman, very energetic, enigmatic, and I think you will really, really enjoy her. She has so many talents. She's extremely talented. She's a performer, she's a musician, she's a comic.
She's an activist.
She's an activist. And she's also transgender. But it's funny, I guess, for me to sort of tag that on to the end as opposed to introduce that at the beginning, because really there's just so many other parts of her personality to me that come through and are amazing and wonderful, and I go, oh, right, and yeah, she's transgender too. So, so we're going to talk about all sorts of things with her.
I feel like it's an Oprah moment. It's
That's
like
right.
Missy Parker!
That's right! We got a new car! So...
Yeah, we're not quite at the giveaway stage yet.
Oh, I see.
But, we're getting there.
All right.
Closer.
I get a free glass of water! This
You get
is
water,
a high
that's
budget show.
Yeah.
Talk about a gift bag. This is
You
some
get
real
some water.
Yeah. So...
You get a disc later.
I see. I love your T-shirt, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Alice in Wonderland. Then that makes me Alice in Genderland. I think.
Yes.
I think walk through the other side of the looking glass.
Absolutely.
That's right. Well,
Tell me first, really quick. Tell me about the piece that you're listening to.
well, that was a piece of music that I recorded. It got some national radio airplay as a 4-time Grammy Award contender and a national recording artist. And that's when I was in my stealth mode. Back when I was presenting as a guy. And not letting the girl out yet, but she's out loud and proud now.
That's fantastic.
And I am proud to be the T in the LGBT. Yes. Although, I must tell you, over the course of my life, I have, in fact, been the L, the G, the B, and the T. So the whole BLT sandwich over the course of my life. Yeah, I'm life's 2-for-1 sale.
Perfect.
The best of both worlds. Life's double dip, equal opportunity experience. But basically,
Give us a little
well, I mean, when people ask me about who I am, I say, I am your basic, plain old, vanilla, bisexual woman that didn't happen to be born female. I know if that sounds confusing, you just try to walk a mile in my high heels sometimes. But yeah, I tried a little bit of everything in life, and so I transitioned a few years ago, started taking female hormones, and yes, these are my real breasts, or as I like to call them, breasticles. I worked very hard for the 2 twin girls, so you can honestly say in every sense of the word, I am a self-made woman.
I love it. I love it. They're so wonderful.
Thank you. Did you hear that, girls?
So how was that?
The girls need encouragement.
How was that? You said you transitioned a couple of years ago. What was the lead up to that like for you? What was the
lead up
what was the process for you?
Yes, it's a very lengthy journey, different for different trans people. There are, as we all know, there are transgender men who are born women, trans men, and there are transgender women like myself who are born male who transition to female. And nowadays there's everything else along the infinite gender spectrum of expression, because there is gender queer and well, you know, the whole world of gender expression is really exploding. I feel very lucky actually to be at this convergence of history, because with the internet revolution and more people are coming out as transgender, and I think there's this normalizing effect of gender expression. And a lot of people don't know, perhaps some of your audience don't know, that there are, in any given culture at any given time, there's about 1% of the population that is gender variant in expression. Well, that may not sound like a lot, but in a world of 8 billion people,
that's a lot.
Well, it's 800 million people on this planet. That's the size of Europe that deal with some kind of gender expression along the continuum. And then 1/10 of the population, of 1% of that, are people like myself who have gone full time in living their true, authentic core gender expression. Well, 0.1% doesn't sound like a lot, except against 8 billion people in the world, that's 80 million people. That's the size of a complete European country. So the size of England or France or Germany, that's how many full-time cross-living, it's huge, it's gigantic. So for people who find this bizarre or abhorrent, irreverent, or whatever they couch it, get over it, because we're here to stay. And not only that, there's a long history of this, which I have researched and lecture on, and gender variant people are documented in appearing in over 6,000 years of recorded history in every single culture all over the planet, and known as hundreds of different names and hundreds of different, well, I mean, look, in the indigenous cultures, and this I find fascinating, in the indigenous cultures have multiple pronouns for gender. For example, in the Navajo tribe, there are 4 distinct pronouns for gender. There's male, female, masculine female, and feminine male. So it kind of covers the whole spectrum.
You got everything.
You got everything.
Okay.
Best of both worlds. In other tribes, in other indigenous tribes, and this is throughout history, sometimes you'll find as many dozen pronouns referring to gender expression. What it has to do with sexual preference, factoring in the job function within the tribe. Did you eat baskets? Do you hunt buffalo? Whatever you're doing.
Right.
If you figure out the mathematical permutation, there's actually dozens. So, you know, born a male but expressing themselves as female, they weave baskets and they like to sleep with, you know, geese or so, whatever.
Right, exactly.
You know, there's a name for it. So, as I say, a lot of people are surprised to know how normal this is.
Right.
Because it's in every century, in every culture in the entire world, and always has been and always will be. And I suspect when people feel the freedom to come out, express who they are, there'll be more and more people.
Absolutely.
And you're already seeing this in the younger kids who identify as
really young kids who are coming out so early.
Yep.
exactly.
At very young ages, 4, 5, 6 years old, not even just teens.
That's
but
right.
Young children.
That's right.
Now, I read an article that said that you had identified at about age 5.
Yeah, that's quite common amongst transsexuals. And you have this cognition, and you don't quite know what it is because you don't have the vocabulary for it. But at 4, 5, 6, 7, and keep in mind, this is pre-puberty. So
Right.
there is no sexual attachment to this. It's
Right.
not, it doesn't even,
Labeling.
it doesn't even enter the realm of fetishistic or sexual. It's just core identity. And oh yeah, I mean, when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, I played with the girls in the girl games. The girls were my buds, my peeps, my friends. I didn't really understand the boy games. And to me, it was like watching wild herds of wildebeest butting heads. I thought, how boring is that? What the hell is that? You know. So I knew there was something up. And then you find out later on that there is a term for it. And I remember in college, I just didn't have a clue as to why I felt more identified as a girl, as a woman, as a female. No matter what it said on my birth certificate, which says male. And I couldn't find anything about it in the college library except the autobiography of Christine Jorgensen, who I later had a chance to meet in person. That was really interesting.
Great book, by the way.
Oh my God, she was like the pioneer. She's the Christopher Columbus of the gender world. But here's the basic thing. If I had nothing else that I could offer to your audience, is the separation of sex, gender, and sexual preference. And that's the thing that gets people most confused, because they think it's the same thing. So here's the point I want to make. Write this down, take out a number 2 pencil, you'll be quizzed at the end of the hour. Sex is what's between your legs. Gender is what's between your ears. And sexual preference is what's between you and your partner in a darkened bedroom with lots and lots of lube. And it is nobody's business. So you can mix and match. You know? You can, just count the options. I mean, it's really, let me tell you, it's the most interesting ride at the carnival.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love telling students that they need to understand that not only the terms, but the meanings behind those terms are fluid.
Exactly.
You can make choices and you can choose to present yourself in ways based on how you feel.
Exactly. Well, look, you were referring to basic biology 101 texts. And this is new information for some people. Not your very sophisticated audience, but for some people it is. Because in nature itself, there is this infinite spectrum of gender expression along the continuum throughout biology. However, having said that, in America, there's only 2 choices on the gender binary menu. You're either John Wayne or Marilyn Monroe. There's nothing in between.
Right.
So sometimes I don't think I was born in the wrong body. I just think I was born in the wrong frickin' country, I think. I don't know.
Or time period.
I need to find a Jules Verne time machine and go into the future where it will be a non-issue, I predict.
Yeah.
All of gender expression, sexuality, the whole LGBT alphabet soup and more, LGBTQ, blah, 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 will become a non-issue because it all will boil down to consensuality. Which has a lot to do with the discussion of the BDSM alternative kink world, but that's a whole other discussion. As long as there is mutual consensuality amongst informed adults, all of the expression that people have in human sexuality interaction should be a non-issue. As we know in reality, in countries and laws, it just is not. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I was born with a female brain in a male-bodied person, which proves absolutely that God does have a sense of humor. Why me? You're just pissing around with me.
Now, because you were, I think that it takes an incredibly strong person to acknowledge what's happening. And
I feel lucky. I feel chosen. I actually do. There's a lot of transgender people who look on this uninvited dilemma as a blessing, and sometimes they look on it as a curse. But I like to look at gender dysphoria more as gender euphoria and try to find the joy in all of this. Because here's the other really, really important point. Gender choice is not a choice at all. Gender is chemically hardwired into the brain DNA from birth, and it is no more of a choice than being born left-handed or being born right-handed. Which answers the question, what is the sound of one hand clapping? You want to know? It's a Zen conundrum.
I love it.
It's ironic because in private school, a lot of people got beat up for being left-handed too.
In the Middle Ages, you were burned at the stake because left-handed people were the mark of the devil.
So it is very similar.
It's just a matter of where you are in time.
Yeah.
So we know for a fact that roughly 10% of the population is born left-handed. However, if you have the misfortune of being born in the Dark Ages, that could cost you your life.
Absolutely.
And I understand it is very painful being burned alive at the stake. But
I'm
that's
given to understand.
From what I hear.
From what I hear. I've talked to many survivors of that. But the point is, you see this evolution.
Yeah.
There was a point where you would be killed, tortured, maimed, beaten up for declaring that you were gay. Well, I think we're finally starting
Depends
to
on where
move-
you are in the country.
Depends on where you are in the world.
Or where you are in the
You
world.
can still be stoned to death
Yeah.
for some of that activity.
Yep.
Currently,
Yep.
today, not the Bronze Age, today,
Today.
like
Today.
this hour.
Right.
We were talking earlier about a woman in the Middle East who had the misfortune of being gang raped against her will. She is at fault. She could be stoned to death. She is the social pariah.
Right.
So it's programs like yours, thank goodness, that illuminate the darkness for the rest of it. Because this is really, I believe, a matter of life and death. This is not a frivolous topic.
Absolutely, and I think you think about a lot of the youth who are struggling and
Oh
trying
my
to figure out
God.
how to come out and aren't supported.
Yeah.
And I know in California specifically, there are several amazing groups that really try and help teens and young adults who are struggling, who've been kicked out, and all sorts of other situations. And it's some people get amazing support from their families, and some people don't. And
Yeah.
you want to help the people that aren't getting that kind of support.
Well, I think it's programs like yours that are critically important at this time. As I said, I think it's a convergence of history. And I personally feel that gender issues are amongst the final frontier of civil rights, which is why I'm in the front line of trans activism and trans politics, because the old prejudices, which are gradually going away, and this is what I do. And if you want to find out more, you can email me at tggifted@AOL. That's TG, like in transgender, and then the word gifted. So there's 2 G's in a row.
So if we're talking about transgender youth, now we know the statistics are that transgender youth are the most likely to be homeless of all possible homeless groups.
Yep.
And definitely all possible youth groups. Transgender youth are most likely to be homeless. So what can we do? What should people be trying to do? What do they have available to them if you're aware of what's available? Or what would you tell them?
The internet is replete with information, and an enlightened, educated world is a safer world for all of us. Transgender people are 10 times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. 10 times. And statistics show that amongst transsexuals, that there is up to about a 50% attempted suicide rate. 50%. That's 1 out of 2 people. That's the highest suicide attempted rate, a rate of anywhere, any group, anyhow, for any reason.
Yeah.
Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that society is pressuring transsexuals because you push a lot of society's buttons when you challenge something as basic as anatomical sex. But there's this other little thing that never gets talked about, and it's the big elephant in the room, and it is called internalized transphobia. And it is a sense of self-loathing and self-hatred that says, well, society, you hate me because I was born a man and I'm a woman. But guess what? I hate me even more. And I'll prove it to you with substance abuse, drug and alcohol, and attempted suicide. That's how much I hate myself. So the double message is from external and internal. How do you change that? Is programs like this. And the realization that these kinds of choices in life are not choices, that they're internally hardwired into the computer, whether you are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, or have certain kinks and fetishes. You know, if you include the fetishistic cross-dressing aspect, you're not talking about 1%. You're talking 10 to 20% of the entire world's population.
Yeah.
That's gigantic. Of people
Yeah.
who don't necessarily identify with the other sex, but love playing the role or the part of the other sex, whether it's the husband putting on a nightie for sex games in the bedroom, and then putting it down in favor of Monday morning, a three-piece suit and tie, and going off to the brokerage firm. But the thing is, they love, you know, the gender expression. So if you got that, it's hard to turn your back on hundreds of millions of people on the planet. You can't do it. So just accept it.
Yeah.